Right, we're back. Where were we, Ashley?
We were talking about me going to Florida.
Oh, yeah. You were talking about going down to Tampa and Orlando for the first time. You'd never been to either of those places.
Neither
You're going
one.
down for a comedy show.
Yeah, actually, it's going to be a hip hop and comedy show. I've been collaborating. I'm actually doing one here in May at the Rendezvous. I believe it's May 24th.
Okay.
Or no, May 11th here at the Rendezvous. I'm one of a couple comedians on there. Brady and Adam will not be on that one.
Okay.
This is actually a collaboration with myself, DJ Cam from Holla Black and ENT.
Okay.
Great dude. He's actually trying to get me a show up in South Dakota too going. So
Hell yeah.
we kind of collaborate with other artists, and I became that guy who's looking to do that type of collaboration where I'm doing it with musicians and stuff too.
Right,
Not just
right.
having comedy, almost like a variety show.
Well, like Metallica, when they tour with comedians.
That'd be
And
awesome.
So I
Love Metallica.
That is awesome. Yeah. And Jim Brewer, it was on their show for a long time.
His AC/DC impression's amazing.
It is. So. His Metallica impression's amazing too.
Yeah.
James Hetfield, he's yeah.
Yeah, I used to love watching him. Speaking of him and Chappell, Half Baked and
that's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, that's really the only movie I know Jim Brewer from.
Yeah.
But
well, you were talking about that too with the Cat Williams stuff and what they will do and everybody, and Cat brought up wearing dresses, right?
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, what old movies have I seen Dave Chappelle in? In Robin Hood Men in Tights, does he not dress like a woman?
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Did you? I was just saying that, which I'm not mad at Dave for. Like,
No.
I absolutely love Dave Chappelle. I went and seen him when he was in Kansas City recently, and it was one of the best shows ever.
Yeah, I think he's become uncancelable.
Oh, yeah.
Because he says so much shit.
They had picket signs out front with all the people complaining about his transgender
I have no
jokes.
idea why. I don't know why, because he's telling these jokes and then he's telling the stories behind them, and he's like, I'm I got a transgender following, I'm friends with quite a few people, and when I'm talking to them, I explain to them these jokes and everything, and they don't say anything about them.
His first opening comedian that came out was transgender.
Yeah, he talks about that on one of his Netflix specials.
Wearing a dress, full, you know what I mean? It was crazy. And walking up to the T-Mobile Center down there in Kansas City to go see him perform, it was wild. And like I said, I like to watch these comedians and see different styles and stuff. And
right.
A lot of his opening comedians were pretty funny.
Right.
But we were walking in and there was literally like picket lines out there. People had signs and stuff and like stop the hate and everything else. And I'm like, why? It's a joke.
Yeah,
like,
the people bringing the hate is you.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm just trying to make motherfuckers laugh. That's it. That's
and that's what I brought that up at Thursday. About that, and I don't like to get too serious on it, but it was just like comedians have a hard time as far as trying to push forward because everything has become so offensive, and I feel like people wake up just to be offended.
Right.
And I'm the least offensive guy. Like when it comes to like you'd have to pretty much slap me in the face for me to be offended.
Right.
Short of that.
And sometimes even then it's depending on what I said, if I take offense to it or not.
Yeah. You know what I mean? If I said something that was completely off, Matt Rife got that heat for the domestic joke on his Netflix special.
Right.
Didn't I just do one Thursday?
Yeah.
It's not about, I like that he doubled down on it because that's the way I look at it too. Is because I don't feel like as a comedian we should have to apologize for making a joke.
Right.
We're not out here telling you to go beat your wife. We're not out here to tell you to go strangle or choke or anything. Just about
making light out of bad situations and even that raises awareness.
Yeah. It's a negative into a positive.
Absolutely.
We're not trying to say that. We're just trying to make a funny or make a bad situation more comical. And a lot of comedians, their storytelling that's what it is.
Yeah.
They've probably had some bad stuff happen, but they're not going to let that be that's not going to define them.
Right.
And I feel like for domestic violence survivors too, they don't let that define them.
Absolutely.
That's how you stay a victim.
Absolutely.
You become a survivor when you don't let that define you.
Right.
So.
And so, we talked about, I've got a domestic violence conviction. Now, my crime, my victim was my wife, and not this wife over here, but my ex-wife at the time. And so we got into a knockdown drag out, and I beat the hell out of her.
Yeah.
I was 18
Yeah.
when it happened. And so I could use the excuse that I was a kid.
Yeah.
I could use the excuse that I was under the influence. I could use all those excuses, but at the end of the day, they're excuses.
Yeah.
And I went through lots of therapy, lots of court mandated therapy. I went through lots of anger management to figure out where I went wrong, what happened. And I take steps every day to make sure those things don't happen again.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about, not using things as weapons. And that's one of those things that I was, one of these days, eventually that domestic violence conviction is going to come back and people are going to be talking about it. And they're going to be like, hey, it's not fair that you get to do this. And the difference is I paid the price. I went to jail for that.
The charge is on you forever.
Right.
So it's not.
I can never own a gun.
Yeah.
And so I did 4 years probation for that. I paid out the ass in money, and I apologized to my victim. And not only did I apologize to my victim, I let her go free. And that was an unhealthy relationship. Yeah. She knows it. I know it. We were toxic together. We kept it going way longer than it needed to go. And even after that incident that got me the domestic violence conviction, she still came back.
Yeah.
And I'll never understand that, but we loved each other, and I think they call it trauma bonding, or something like that. But ultimately, I learned from all of that, and I got the help that I needed.
Yeah.
And I don't think I should have to pay for that crime my whole life, especially when I'm more than willing to talk about it and discuss it so that it doesn't happen in the future, and maybe raise that awareness.
You admitted wrong, and that's the thing about that is that you owned what you did.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, oh, they're just that because they did this. And it's like, that's the thing is that that's why it's been changed from being called a prison to corrections.
Right.
Because you're supposed to correct you can't go back and change what you did. Nobody can.
Right.
Unless you find a time machine, and we can go back and do a lot of different things differently, I guess. But the thing is that owning up to the mistake.
Right.
And it's not ideal. Nobody wants to have that.
Right.
And I get that. But when we make jokes about it as comedians, we're not condoning it.
Right, absolutely.
And that's the thing too. Like they
the first one, like the comedians that make the jokes about it, they're usually one of the first people that are going to step in to offer help in a situation like that. And like you come from a law enforcement background, and you have law enforcement in your family. That's probably baked into your manhood to kind of step in and say, hey, we don't do this. What is wrong with you?
Exactly. You stop that type of stuff.
Right.
But as a comedian standpoint, nothing should be off limits when it comes to comedy.
Right.
The way I look at it is a good comedian should be able to take a story from anywhere, any direction, and turn it into something comical and make light of it. Like we just said, a comedian is supposed to be the light in the darkness. They're not supposed to be, you're canceled because you said this or you said that. That's not the way it is. I've been called mean and rude and stuff like that before because, I don't know if it was out of jealousy or what, but clearly I'm still making shows happen. I'm still getting booked. I'm still getting things rolling. I may not be making millions of dollars yet, but I'm hoping someday that's in the future for me.
Absolutely.
But
and I absolutely believe it's coming because you just started in May, and I'm not even a year, not even a year, and I'm already you're booking shows in Florida. Your friends trying to get you to come up to South Dakota.
I also Minnesota might be up in there too with another group. And sorry, I'm gonna give those guys a shout out too.
Hey, absolutely, go ahead.
Fat C and Professor Fresh. I did a show with them. I actually was kind of the MC for their show.
Okay.
They came to DNG and Cafe Acoustic.
Okay.
So I got asked to be an MC there, and absolutely loved performing there. I love that stage. It's up higher. It's kind of nice that you get the you could view the crowd the way it's set up because I think you're like 4 foot off the ground. With that,
it's more like a comedy clubs type setting.
Yeah, well, they do a lot of bands and stuff there too. But Cafe Acoustic was amazing. I love Christina and those guys. They did me well too. But I made friends with Fat C and Professor Fresh, and they're talking about possibly having a big show up there in Minnesota sometime too. So, which could be in the spring. It hasn't been booked yet. The South.
Hey, if you ever need anybody to carry your water for you when you go on those trips, count me in, man.
Well, if I'm not drinking water, it's probably Miller Lite. So.
Hey.
So I'm going to go the opposite way of Shane with the Bud Light stuff he's doing. I'm going to try to get me some Miller Lite sponsors. So.
Hell yeah. Is Shane Gillis doing Bud Light now?
Yeah. I think he's, they're kind of bringing him back to, I think they're trying to overturn the Dylan fiasco that happened.
I think the joke was his head's too big for the can. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a big dude too.
Yeah, he is.
He's a big dude. Speaking of that, I've been doing some research, because I got to open up for this guy this Saturday. And this Chris Covey guy, he's 6'8". I'm like, I'm 5 foot. That's a foot taller than me. How weird that's gonna be if we do pictures and stuff.
That's gonna be hilarious.
I'm gonna look like Kevin Hart next to Shaq.
No, it's like, have you ever seen Joe Rogan's socials?
Yeah.
He takes pictures with a lot of his guests, and he's had some huge guys on there.
Because Joe's like an inch shorter than me, I think, or close to it.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird because you see him on his podcast, and he looks bigger than what he is.
Well,
and
he's in good shape. Joe's
really good shape. That guy is cut.
Yeah.
Like he does pictures for his socials, and he does these ice baths.
Yeah.
No way. Not for me. Nope.
It's supposed to do a lot of good for you.
Yeah, so it opens up your capillaries and stuff like that, gives you better blood flow and stuff like that. And when you alternate hot and cold, it contracts and expands your blood vessels, and that may actually help with your migraines a little bit. It just dunking your head down in water and getting those capillaries in your neck submerged in cold water to shrink them down.
I'm gonna start with cold showers first. I ain't jumping in ice.
and then hot water to expand them out, and you get better blood flow. And my uncle does that. It helps him.
That'd be nice.
So Joe Rogan's always talking about the benefits of a sauna and the ice baths and stuff like that. I'll go sit in a sauna 150 degrees. I don't care.
Sweat it out. But
yeah, I am not getting in freezing cold water. I'm just not built that guy. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of athletes do it. I think Wahlberg does it too. I think Mark Wahlberg does it too.
I really like Mark Wahlberg. He's one of my favorites.
It's funny. That's how I got my daughter in Florida, actually.
Really?
The girl thought I was Mark Wahlberg when I was down there. So
that's funny. That's funny.
Like same height and built. So.
And so back to going to Florida. I asked if you were going to fly or drive. You weren't sure, but we like to go down to Orlando all the time. One of the things that we like to do is travel, and we've been to Universal Studios a couple of times. Went to Disney World once, and we drive.
Yeah.
And when we do it, we have at least 2 drivers.
Yeah.
One of us drives halfway, the other drives the rest of the way, and we do it all in one day.
Yeah.
So we'll start out at like 6 a.m, and then we'll drive all day and night, and we'll arrive early the next morning. So it takes about 24 hours to get to Orlando from here.
Yeah, it took me 16 to drive to Pensacola the last time I went down.
Yeah.
And I drove my truck down there, and I didn't stop but for gas and beef jerky very much.
Yeah, and then I think we had to stop, to go to the bathroom. Yeah. Kids were with us, so we had to stop and eat and stuff. So it took a little longer at each stop. But in the middle of the night, I'm a driving fool.
Yeah.
Like you pull over and I won't stop until the next time I need gas, which is 5-6 hours later.
Yeah.
So we do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So if you want to drive, I wouldn't be afraid of driving.
No.
It is cheaper than flying. You're depending on what you take down there. It's like if you take your truck, it's gonna cost you more in gas than you would like in a little Camry or something.
I actually only had to stop 5 times on the way down.
Really?
My truck has. I think I have like a 17, 18 gallon tank though.
Oh, really? So you get pretty good gas mileage in.
So I get over 400 miles per tank. But I never let it get down past like, a quarter of tank or something like that because it's hard on the fuel pump and stuff.
Right. Absolutely.
Not a mechanic, but I just kind of learned some things along the way. But
yeah, I've heard that my whole life. It's always because it sucks on the bottom of the tank and all that thick shit that's in the bottom.
Sediment brings up into it, and then you have problems. But I only stopped. I probably could have got away with stopping maybe three, maybe 4 times if I would have done it, really risked it. But I just wanted to drive straight through. But the worst place I drove through was Arkansas.
Yeah, the worst place that we ever drove through, like anywhere, going through anywhere so far. The worst place we've driven through is St. Louis.
St. Louis was rough too.
Second was Memphis, and which is part of it's in Arkansas. I remember we were driving through Arkansas down to, on our way to, was it Mississippi we were going to?
Yeah.
And we were driving through this just hole in the wall, shitty ass town. And on the side of the road, I see a daycare. It says Hugs and Tugs Daycare. And I'm like, yeah, let's take our kids to Hugs and Tugs. Doesn't that sound like a wonderful, place to take your kids?
AKA owned by Epstein.
Right.
Like,
Epstein Island here.
Right. That doesn't sound right. But my problem was I went down in like October. And it was snowing down that way.
No kidding.
And I had to get behind, how Arkansas is like nothing but curves, right? Everywhere. And I had to actually get behind a semi just so I could see where I was going.
Oh, okay.
Because the snow was coming down like at angles.
Yeah, right. It was coming right at you,
couldn't wait to get to Florida.
Star Wars or Star Trek. You're flying through the stars.
Yeah, like you just put it in hyperspeed or something.
Yeah.
That's how it looked. So I couldn't see in front of me, but the semi trailer lights is all I could see in front of me. So I just had to follow that semi. Come to find out, he was on the wrong side of the road too.
That's funny.
I was just following him. I was like, well, I guess if that accident happens, I guess I'm going to be right here. So
working for MCON, there was one time I was working in Manhattan, Kansas, and we were on our way home. We had to bring all the equipment home. It's the last day of the job. We were bringing all the equipment home. Yeah. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Foggy as a son of a bitch. And that stretch of 36 highway in between. What's the biggest town? Well, anyway, you know how dark 36 highway is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Foggy as hell, and I'm following a semi. We're doing 70 miles an hour down 36 highway. I can't see anything but the lights in front of me.
Wow.
I got my head out the window trying to follow my guy in front of me.
Yeah.
And I hollered at him on the radio, and I said, hey, do not slow down. Don't stomp on your brakes because I'm right behind you, and I will eat your bumper.
Yeah.
And he's like, gotcha, 10-4. We made it home all in one piece. It was surprising, but we only had to stop one time.
Yeah.
But we made it. It was kind of scary, but so going up to you're talking about your buddy wants to get you up to South Dakota and do some shows up there. Yeah. Is that something that's in the works?
Yeah. I actually talked to him the other day. Actually, I need to reach out to him and find out because he said he had a venue up there that he really wanted me to come perform at. And so I was like, well, let me know because I'm going to try to put something together for next month.
Absolutely.
Which it's in the works. It's not. He hasn't confirmed it yet with the other comedian, but at Unplugged next month on I think the 23rd, we may be opening up for another comedian that's coming through here in St. Joe. So
hell yeah.
So we're kind of getting booked up, at least maybe 1 or 2 shows a month, maybe.
And the warm weather's coming, and
plus all the open mic nights that I host. Like I said, I literally started everything off of a Facebook post saying I want to put together something, and then people started jumping on it.
That's awesome.
And now I just kind of been. I don't want to say leading a movement, but I kind of, I guess, started a comedy movement in the St. Joseph area.
That's awesome because that's one thing that we need is more laughs. The first Thursday I came down to see you guys, I laughed until I cried. Yeah. And that was something I had talked on the podcast about a few weeks before that. I said one thing that doesn't happen very often happened recently. I laughed until I cried, and then a couple weeks later I come down to your show and it happened again.
There you go.
And laughter is the best medicine, man.
I'd love to hear that for real. Cause
I love to laugh, and I love like even if jokes aren't funny, still like hearing them. Yeah. Like dad jokes, most of them aren't funny, and that's what makes them funny. Yeah. So
they're corny and they're just there, and
right.
And I think that comes along. Dad jokes are actually they're kind of a wit thing, like
right.
Dads usually have that quick wit about them.
Right.
Some will be funnier than others.
Right.
You ever watch the Mark Wahlberg and is it Will Ferrell? They do the back and forth dad jokes or whatever. The first one to laugh loses or something.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't seen that particular one, but I've seen a couple of those where it was. I think Kevin Hart's done one.
Yeah,
and they're pretty good. I think Zac Efron's not a comedian, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that one. Like Zac Efron on one. Yeah. But those things are awesome, and I've not seen the one with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, but they did that movie together. Yeah. That step was it? It's not Stepdads, is it?
It's Daddy's Home.
Daddy's Home. Yeah.
Yeah, they did 2 of those, and then you also got the other guys where they play cops.
The Other Guys is hilarious. That's one of my favorite movies because those two work well together, and I really hope they do another one down the road with those two together. And I hope eventually there's like a Step Brothers 2 because that one was really good too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was big into that one in Talladega Nights. That was one of my favorites. Yeah.
So one of my favorite comedians growing up was George Carlin. Then another one was Richard Pryor. Yeah. Loved Richard Pryor. And those were some of my bigger influences growing up. I got my no sense of bullshit from Richard Pryor.
Oh, yeah.
And my intellectual humor from George Carlin. George Carlin did a lot of political humor, a lot of satire, stuff like that. And then there's people like Lewis Black.
Oh, yeah.
Lewis Black right now is probably my favorite comedian because he takes life and puts a funny little spin on it and yells at you, and somehow it's funny. Oh, yeah. You know? And so those are some of my bigger influences in the comedy, the people that I like. So what are some of your biggest influences?
Well, you got me at Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
That was one of my all-time favorites growing up. I used to watch all his movies with Gene Wilder and stuff like that too.
Absolutely. One of my favorite movies of all time, and I don't know why, but it's The Toy.
Yep.
With Richard Pryor. Yep. And who was that other guy? It's
Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason, The Honeymooners. Yep. I really loved that movie, and a lot of that comedy was lost in the beginning because it was a children's kind of a kidsy movie, but there was a lot of adult humor in there.
Yeah, it had some sentimental stuff, but you also had the adult humor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up watching that all the time. My grandfather, I bring him up a lot too. He's passed away back in like 2015.
Right.
But he's kind of another person that, like I said, was kind of influential on everything, but he always reminded me of Red Fox.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like off of Sanford and Son.
Yep.
Actually, for the longest time, his ringtone in my phone was the Sanford and Son ringtone. Every time he called, I just let it play. Yeah. So.
Yeah. My that's my father-in-law's ringtone for your phone, isn't it? The Sanford and Sons. That's your dad's ringtone, isn't it? Yeah.
I absolutely love that show.
I actually didn't know Red Fox from that show. I knew Red Fox from his comedy albums because my parents had them all. And I didn't by the time I was growing up, Sanford and Sons wasn't on TV anymore. It was on that TV Land.
Oh yeah.
Nickelodeon
with me. That's
TV Land.
Yeah.
So that's where I saw Sanford and Sons, but I was listening to Red Fox albums since I was
from St. Louis too.
Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I think John Goodman's from somewhere, St. Louis, something like that.
He's from St. Louis. I think Eddie Griffin is from Kansas
City. Eddie Griffin's from Kansas City. I did know that.
Cedric's from St. Louis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good comedians that came from this area. Even I think it's Paul Rudd. He's Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yeah. His mom actually still lives in Lawrence. Yeah. She's some kind of radio bigwig in Lawrence, and she still lives here. That's awesome. She still works here.
That's actually what one of my dreams would be if I break over into acting side and stuff eventually. That would be one of my people I'd want to work with would be Paul Rudd.
Yeah, and he's so great.
Yeah.
His
humor is just great.
I first saw him like everybody else in Clueless, and even his humor in that movie was pretty good. And then the older he gets, just his style of comedy is funny because you don't. Yeah. He's one of a kind, and he's not trying to be like anybody else.
He's like a normal guy,
Exactly, and that's why
you're talking.
That's why his shtick is so funny, and it's not really a shtick. That's how he is. Yeah. Like when he's coming down, he watches a lot of Kansas City Chiefs games in person. He comes down to Royals games, and you see him, and he's on TV. Yeah, he was sporting our Chiefs jerseys or our Royals jerseys. And pretty much acting the same way he does in movies. So, I mean, I think with him, what we're seeing is what we're getting. Yeah. And he's so good at his craft that it's just kind of like that all the time.
Him and Ryan Reynolds both are like
Ryan Reynolds is a genius, man.
They just seem to be like playing themselves on their
exactly
shows, so.
Exactly. I think that's what Ryan Reynolds does. I can't imagine how, like, Blake Lively, isn't that his wife?
Yeah.
I can't imagine how she even sits in the same room with him and takes him serious ever.
Yeah, because he's just sarcastic all the time, it looks like.
One of the serious movies that he did, like, I think it was Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
He was so hilarious in that movie. It was great. And any of the movies that he does is a winner in my eyes. I like Ryan Reynolds. He's pretty good comedy.
It's funny. I actually watched Green Lantern the other day just because it was funny.
I only watched part of that movie, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but the parts with Ryan Reynolds was the only enjoyable parts.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because he, even in your Deadpool movies, you see on the second one where he goes back and cleans up the timelines and stuff.
Right. I don't think anybody could be Deadpool but Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. Now that you've seen Ryan Reynolds doing it, I don't think anybody else could do it.
Yeah, it's a hard. It's just like the Wolverine thing, It's hard
I don't
to
think
see
anybody could
do
any. I don't think anybody but Hugh Jackman can do it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been doing it since what, 2020 or 2002 or something.
Right.
Like that?
I don't even remember. I don't even remember the Wolverine before him. Like, I don't think we had any Wolverine movies. Mm-hmm. I think his was the first one.
Yeah, outside of people voice acting in cartoons. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I grew up on the X-Men stuff too. So I mean, I'm not a big like comic, what do you call a comic nerd or anything like that. I wasn't really big on reading them and stuff, but I just
now that they brought it to the big screen, I really enjoy like the Justice League and stuff like that. I really like those movies. Batman.
Yeah.
Speaking of Batman, you're not only are you a comedian and in law enforcement, but you're also a self-defense instructor.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say Batman is Batman's trained in Krav Maga, and that's your specialty, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my son told me the other day I was Batman. Because he loves Batman, and I guess he thinks I am. Like, I wish I had his money. So
absolutely. Yeah, me too.
That should be a superpower.
If I had Batman's money, I would be this whole thing. Well, we'd have a giant building. Our studio would be monstrous.
I'd still come on your show.
Absolutely.
So,
hey,
give you a shout out too.
What?
Would it be like in a cave?
That would be cool.
Your signal might be rough.
That would be. I saw a podcast one day. That dude, it was just a dude in his backyard in a canvas tent, like one of those permanent canvas tents, and like a glamping tent, and there was paintings on the tent and everything.
You couldn't do that in St. Joe. You'd be hearing sirens and everything else around.
Oh yeah. So. But it was actually a UFO deal where he was talking to somebody about UFOs and stuff. It was Richard Dolan that he was talking to. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but it was in a tent in a backyard
cool,
in California. And I was like,
"Oh, California,
that is awesome! I want to do something like that." So I could see me doing something like that in a cave.
Yeah.
It'd
be kind of different,
Yeah, it'd be kitschy cool. I could be like, come on down to the Dick Cave.
Yeah, the Dick Cave.
You're
not gonna get very many people in there.
Yeah, your production company is Sleep Cockin'. Yeah, and my production company is Dick and Ash Productions.
Oh, nice.
So Dick Ash Productions.
You can't say that too fast.
Right, Dick and Dash. Got a Dick and Dash. so that's our email, dickandashprod.com.
Whenever COVID hit, that might be something that you catch on. So.
Yeah. I think that's when we did come up with it in the middle of COVID, didn't we?
Dick and Dash.
Dick and Dash.
Yeah, it's like DoorDash, but different.
Yeah. That's. I told you that was going to be a problem.
You just leave the tip there, just so.
But anyway, so you talked about Richard Pryor and being one of your influences. Give us a couple more.
Dave Chappell.
Dave Chappell is one of the greatest to ever do it as well.
Dave Chappell, and I think he's taken stuff from some Pryor stuff too. His style, he's kind of got the political activeness. Be an activist actually.
Right. And that hasn't always been part of his act. That's just more recently since he turned down all that money.
Yeah, and I think he's not really the type I don't think he's using his platform to try to like do that.
Right.
As far as that's concerned, I feel like he just says it like he sees it.
Right. And I think
that's what I like about him.
I think that's what he wanted to do. I think he wanted to, when he turned down all that money for the Dave Chappelle show, it wasn't because he didn't want the money. It wasn't because he didn't want to do the show. It was because people were trying to make him do things that he didn't want to do. They were trying to make him toe a line he didn't want to toe. And he's like, if I can't be myself, if you guys don't want me, you want the product.
Yeah.
Well, you guys make your own product. I don't want any part of it. And so he left and he came back. And when he came back, he's like, look, man, I'm going to be honest and do the things that I want to do.
Exactly.
And I think
he's bigger than ever.
One of my biggest influences is Joe Rogan. And part of what makes him so successful is he gets on his show and he does what he wants. Now, Coffee with Bearded Bad Dad is the name of the show. And I've explained it to a lot of people that when we first started this, I kind of wanted this to be a catch-all show. This isn't the only show that we want to do. We want to do some other projects together, but this was supposed to be my solo thing. And so I'm not always going to have a co-host. Lots of times it's going to be guests. Lots of times it may be just me. You never know. And I might do a few monologues. Yeah. But this was going to be my catch-all show. And
I'm happy to do it with you.
So. I appreciate it. Yeah. And you're actually my third guest, and you're the third guest that's not a part of my family, or you're the first guest that's not part of my family.
Gotcha.
And it's really exciting to have
Glad to
you
be
here.
The third and the first. There we go. So.
The third and the first.
So.
It's a really joy to have you here, because not only did you want to come on here to support me, and you heard about the podcast and you're like, hey, yeah, I'd like to get on there and help him grow and everything. Yeah. But you're also helping me do this. I mean, I'm just starting out a couple months ago. Yeah. I'm not great, but this has been a great conversation. It's gone well. Yeah. And I think honing in my craft at the very beginning with somebody is just starting out their career can only benefit both of us.
Oh yeah. I think that's a great way to do it. And here's the thing about this, you talked about, my business started off as doing security work, being ex-law enforcement, and I offered the self-defense stuff. It's crazy because I'm seeing more support on my comedy than I've ever seen with anything else. Right. Security, there's so many security companies out there. Right. So I kind of transitioned from offering like physical security services and things of that nature, which I'll still offer on the side. If someone wants me to do a gig, if the money's right, I do it. Right. But the self-defense stuff, I offer that training on a need basis. If someone wants me to teach somebody, I had a lot of people that say, hey, I want to take training, but they never show up back out. I actually gave up my space that I was paying for. Right. Again, I'm a family guy, so I have to think about that first. It was costing me. It was no hard feelings for the place I was doing it at. But if no one's going to show up, I'm just spending money on a space and I'm not getting to train anybody. Right. So I had to step away from it. So I got my pads and stuff like that back recently. I pulled that. So now it's like if someone wants me to train them, I can do in-home or I can do stuff like that. But absolutely. I'm going to go based off of it's going to be money talks on that side. Right, right. It's not that I don't want to help people, but I can't sit here and put myself out financially. Right. And you can't really have it like a schedule for something that's like say you have you set Tuesdays aside to train and then Tuesday comes and there's nobody there. Well, that Tuesday you could have been doing something else or promoting the business or making phone calls or
for the day.
Or set up a show, right, the comedy stuff. Now, I'm trained. I've been doing training for years. I did a little bit of dabbled in like different stuff like jiu-jitsu and things of that nature too. But so I've kind of got a little bit of all different disciplines that I've trained on. But I'm by no means a black belt in jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or none of that stuff. Right. I just became an instructor about 2 years ago in Krav Maga because I love doing the training. Right. And you don't have to be a black belt for self-defense. Man, you don't even have to be like formally trained in anything. You just gotta some tips and tricks and techniques that like especially using inertia, using one's inertia against them. That's really helpful, and you learn that with martial arts. And then there's one Aikido that's really defense based, where it's not offensive but defensive.
And I like that one, watching it in practice, but I don't like doing it.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Steven Seagal or nothing.
So. No. I used to be when I was a kid until I found out that he's weird and
very arrogant.
He's a communist, and I don't like that.
I'm not big on him on that.
I can't root for somebody that's actively going against his own country just out of spite.
As someone who's done any type of training in martial arts, he lost my respect whenever he was bashing other martial arts actors and stuff. The ones that have actually taken training, and he just tried to say that they're not artists. And it's like a lot of those guys have won championships and done stuff. Like you talked about Van Damme. Van Damme was a Taekwondo champion.
Yeah, and he's still pretty good. He's still older than, I mean, he's really old and he can still move. So, yeah. One of those actors that I really have a lot of respect for, that I only knew from acting, and then I found out he was a fighter later, is Michael Jai White.
Oh yeah. He's a black belt in like several disciplines.
Yeah, he's a badass. I had no idea. Well, I was watching his movies, and like he was always really cool in the movies, and then I find out
he could really do
he's
it.
a fighter.
Yeah,
he's a warrior.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. Like
he's one of my favorites.
Some comedians actually have a lot of that in common, like self defense and
Joe Rogan,
martial arts, and like Joe Rogan. And I hate bringing Joe Rogan up a lot, but I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. Yeah. He's one of my influences. And I guess the biggest influence he has on me is to go out there and do your thing.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do, because somebody's always going to have a problem with it, and fuck them.
And he's one of those guys too. Like if you make it on his podcast, he blows you up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It helps you out. Like it's kind of an honor to be on his podcast.
Right. And it's not him doing it on purpose. He just wants to, like, if a guest is on his show, he's not doing that to boost them. Yeah. He's doing that because, hey, I'd really like to talk to that guy. I watch a lot of aliens and UFO shit, and he's very curious about that kind of stuff, and he has a lot of my favorite journalists on there.
Yeah.
And so when I watch that stuff, you kind of, Joe Rogan, he's like 3 hours, 4 hours a day on his podcast. And it's really hard to hide who you are when you're doing that for that long. And I think with Joe Rogan, what we see is what we get. And I think the most successful people are like that. With Dave Chappell, what we see is what we get. Paul Rudd, what we see is what we get. Is that the same with Dan Rathmann? What we see is what we get?
I'd like to say so. I mean, like I don't really hold back on what I'm saying. When I want to say it, I say it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's quite a few jokes that you could poke, like just in normal conversation. And last week you waited till you were on the stage.
Yeah.
And so my beard kind of got the brunt of the joke there for a second.
I take a little bit of here's the thing. I love working the crowd. I love talking to the crowd. I love asking the questions to people and then using that against them.
That's really the only way to do it.
And I'm a big roaster. Yeah. I gotcha. Oh man, I should say no.
What?
I like to roast people too. That's kind of and it's all in good fun. I just, it's just that nature. I think if I'm roasting somebody, it's kind of a term of endearment.
Right.
It's not something to be mean. And I think that, like I said, I've been called mean and rude by some other people that I worked with in the past or stuff like that.
Right.
And, I won't even give them the benefit of the doubt of even being mentioned. But it's just kind of funny that everybody else loves it. They absolutely love whenever I start talking about stuff or I start talking trash to people in the crowd, because it's just a fun time and an interaction that brings them into the show.
Right.
Because not every comedians can get up there and they can do a set. They can do a set, but sometimes when a crowd member says something to them, they go blank.
Right.
And I don't want to be that comedian where I just go blank.
Right.
I'm always trying to my wheels are always turning. Like you said, you could see my wheels turning on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what it is. I don't call it a gift, call it a curse. But it happens. My wheels are constantly turning. And another reason why I hardly sleep at night, because my wheels are always turning. I'm thinking of new stuff. I'm thinking of things to say to people. I'm thinking of things to do.
That hustle is coming out in your dreams, man.
Yeah, it does. It comes out constantly. And I don't know how to shut it off.
You don't, brother. You roll with it, because right now it's working. Strike while the iron's hot.
That's exactly my plan.
And dude, you are kicking ass. Just in the last hour, I've learned a lot about you and a lot of the things that you got coming up is because of that hustle, that drive, and you want to chase that dream. You're pursuing that, and I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy to see other people finally take the initiative and control of their lives, because I feel like I'm running the rat race sometimes with the man, and I wanted to get away from that.
Yeah.
And that was my motivation for starting my own thing, is because I'm getting to the point where kids are in school all day.
Yeah.
I want to go back into the workforce.
Yeah.
But I couldn't handle the hourly jobs. And so we got a gig job. Pays great.
Yeah.
I help out with that, but it's not my own thing.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to get into this thing, started it up, and it's leading to bigger and better things.
Exactly.
Like you and I would have never met had, I not brought this. Like we may have met on down the road, but we have a mutual friend in common who introduced us.
And he's very supportive.
He is very supportive. And this may turn out to be a great working relationship. I plan on asking you to be on the show again.
I'd love to.
And if, even if you're not on the show, I'm still going to come down and support you whenever I can.
Absolutely love it.
And Adam and
Brady.
For some reason, I keep wanting to say Brent.
It's weird. Our initials are Dab.
Dab it up.
So
Dab it up.
It's crazy. Or bad, actually, if you go backwards.
Yeah, Matt. There you go.
It's crazy.
But chasing that dream and chasing the hustle and stuff like that, I admire that. I want to talk to people like that, and I think that's the ultimate direction I'm going to go with this show. Is when I was talking to we had another guest on the show, Jessica. When I was talking to her, I was like, trying to find that why am I doing this? And then I remembered like where my ultimate focus was is I wanted to talk to Americans, everyday average Joes, like you and I, like Ashley, just the people that not like the Joe Rogans. Like if I could be on Joe Rogan's show, obviously I'm going to go.
Oh yeah, everybody would.
But it'd be just for Joe Rogan, not because of the fame or anything. It'd just be like, this is the only way I could talk to you. Yeah. So, but I would absolutely do that.
Oh yeah, I like Theo Von too. You ever see
Theo Von is hilarious, and a part of his shtick and what makes it work is because he pretends like he's dumb. Yeah. He pretends like the hairstyle is
intelligent.
him.
Yeah.
And he's very, very smart.
Yeah. He knows what he's doing. I absolutely love it. There's right now the comedians out that I want to meet that I would think would be fun to work with that are big named comedians right now that are blowing up everywhere would be Theo, Shane, and then Matt. Those three right now, I would love to meet. I'd love to just pick their brains for a little bit and see how it's going because
just even fresh, run into them at a restaurant.
Yeah, they're fresh and it's great. And there's gonna be people that are like, oh, I hate them, blah blah blah, and that's fine because not every comedian is for everybody.
Right.
There's gonna be people that will like they might have liked Rodney Dangerfield. But then somebody else might have hated him, and I know there's a lot of people out there.
Rodney Dangerfield's comedy wasn't for me until I was older.
Yeah,
and it was nonsense. It was
life experiences.
Yeah, I didn't understand it, but now that I'm older, and he says that the wife jokes, totally get them. Yeah. The mom jokes, totally get it. I get no respect. That's me, man. I get no respect.
I feel it.
I got 4 kids, man. They treat me like they're little terrorists sometimes. They really are. But I love them. I love every one of them, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think that what's made me the man I am today is being a dad. And I wanted to share that with everybody and share that with you, share that with the folks at home.
It makes you better. It really
Absolutely.
Does. Makes you want to do better.
Absolutely. So. And we started this conversation on what made you want to get into comedy. We talked a little bit about law enforcement and the family, your first bust. We talked about your influences and chasing that dream. Man, I'm really proud of you. And I think we're going to wrap this up for now. I really would like to have you on again.
Yeah.
And when we talk again, we're not going to have it like as formal. We learned a little bit about you. The next time we'll just talk and have a conversation about like what's pissing you off this week, what's pissing me off this week. And
I got a lot of stories that piss me off. I'll tell you.
We'll make some comedy gold out of it. And you can roast me or whatever.
It's all good.
But I think
2-in-1, right?
That 2-in-1. Okay, before we get out of here, I gotta tell my regiment, because the show is Coffee with Bearded Bad Dad. And so when you were up on stage last Thursday, it said something about my beard, and I was like, hey man, it actually takes me longer to take care of my beard than it takes my wife to get ready.
Yeah.
So my regimen is when I get in the shower, I wash up and everything, and when it comes to my beard, like my hair doesn't get the attention because I'm going bald. So since I'm going bald, I take all that focus to my beard. I use a 2-in-1 dandruff shampoo on the beard, and then I wash all that out. I use a conditioner on the beard. I wash all that out, get out, dry it all out and everything. Then I apply a beard oil and brush it. So I got two different brushes. Yeah. I got a hair brush and then a beard brush. Yeah. And so it takes me probably 30 minutes to shower every day. Yeah. And it only takes her about 15 minutes. So I got a better or a more intensive routine with my beard than she does her hair, and I'm kind of proud of it.
I keep my hair short, and I can't really grow a beard, I guess. So
if you keep your hair short, like I keep my hair short too. Like I haven't gotten a haircut since like May.
I need to get a haircut, but I normally keep it pretty well. I mean, it's about as buzzed down before you get bald. So.
Right. And
wearing this hat, I haven't said the C word more than I thought I would. I don't know why, but
what's C word? Cunt?
Yeah.
You want to say cunt?
Yeah.
Cunt.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite words,
it's a Jason
actually.
Statham thing, you know? Like
I love Jason Statham. That movie Crank and Crank 2, those movies were great. Yeah. Totally underrated. And I think they'd still, if they were released today, I think they'd still hold up.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I think we're going to wrap this up for today, and we'll have you on again, hopefully not too long. I know you got a busy schedule coming up. Let's give them a rundown of what we're doing again. So. This weekend coming up, you got Thursday
we'll be at Unplugged. We'll do open mic night. I host. You'll see Adam Brown and Brady Willis there. They're regulars at the show. You'll also see us again. We'll be at The Den. I believe we should be there around 8:30ish, doing a show there downtown here in St. Joseph, Missouri. And then we go up Saturday, the 24th. We'll be at the pub in Maryville, Missouri, where we open up for Chris Covey. Now, tickets there are going to be $10 if you buy them now. If you hurry up and buy them, I think they're going to have $200 on pre-sale. But if not, then you pay $15 at the door. Of course, Chris Covey, he's a traveling comedian right now. He's actually doing this professionally full time, so he's going to be a big draw for most people there. But you can also come out and support us and see what we got to offer.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it, Dan. It's been great.
Right,
and we'll talk to you again. And I'm going to link all of Dan's social medias in the description here. We're going to link your TikTok. I hate TikTok, but we're going to link it anyway. We're gonna give you a good description. We're going to have you on again. And just to remind everybody, these are local shows right now here in St. Joseph, Missouri. Come on down and support Dan and Brady and Adam and show them some love, because these guys coming up, man, they're trying to make you laugh. They do make me laugh. And we're trying to get some hustle going. We're trying to make some dreams happen. So help us out. All right. We'll see you.
Thank you.